Okay. I'm here at the Monetate Summit and chatting with my good friend Alex about companies and their use of data and how many companies have struggled with taking advantage of the data they're collecting about their customers, getting some experimentation and testing going on. What have you seen as the things that have been the major things to overcome the use of data in the organizations you've been at?
Well, I think one of the advantages has been that QVC's always been a data-driven company and always put a high value on how much data they have to leverage on about their customers. And we've always been a membership-based organization, so we've always had data for every customer that we have. I think let me talk about one of the challenges I think that we have is balancing the fact that we have a lot of data that we use to analyze our business, but we also put a high value on institutional knowledge. And sometimes those two things don't agree with each other. So it's a matter of sometimes letting the data actually tell you what it really is trying to tell you and not trying to shape the data to tell you what you want it to tell you. But one of the things that we've done is I think because we've owned a customer relationship since the very beginning, we've always used data to help tell stories about what's going on with our customer base. It's what's helped us really understand some of the channel shift that's been going on. Because we can track our customer across the different platforms that she's been engaging with us on, and I think we have a culture that honestly values data-driven stories that really helps us get better insight into what we can possibly offer the customer. If you've ever gone backstage at QVC and you watch the live show from the producer's desk, you understand you're in data nirvana. It's flowing data, on 3 or 4 different screens. They're helping us understand what is the customer really thinking right now, what are they interested in, what do they like, what they don't like. And so I think we've always been, awash in data. I think the interesting thing that's been happening over the last 5 to 10 years has been this whole influx of behavioral data coming from the digital platforms, and marrying that up with some of the data that we've had about ordering and purchasing and calls and call center data. I don't know if that...
So it's interesting because when I talk to most organizations, I usually find that the buckets where experimentation and testing kind of fall apart in that use of data is technological, right? So in other words, they want to do things, but because of IT or because of their platform, it's very difficult. Sometimes legal, right? Legal kind of is over restrictive and won't let them experiment and do kind of crazy things because they won't do it, or brand. It could be that type of stuff. And then lastly, cultural. But it sounds like cultural, it's within your organizational DNA to support the use of data and to use that to make decisions. How about the other two? How have you guys overcome those?
I think it's about redefining what testing means for our organization. So if you grew up as a television network for the past 25 years, testing is much more linear. There is no A/B testing. There's not that easy capability to do that with a single nationwide broadcast. With the advent of the digital platforms, this whole concept of re-educating the organization on what is possible with testing, what can you actually prove incrementally about the actions that you're doing, and then how do you use that to challenge institutional knowledge or beliefs, and how quickly do those things change? That's, I think, being the biggest change for us is how quickly assumptions that were true and used to last for several years now last for several months. And how quickly do we revisit decisions and revisit data?
So how did you overcome it from the technical? I mean, we're here obviously at the Monetate Summit. I know Monetate had a big play from the CMS side of it, essentially, overcoming and being able to be much more flexible. But also in terms of allocating resources and investing resources to doing it, how have you guys done that and managed that?
I think probably the biggest piece of it is our business is real time. So we value the ability to make a decision about how we're going to talk to the customer by how close we can do it to the actual time that we're doing it. So if it's planned really far in advance, that's great, but that knowledge starts to get old. And so the ability to execute tests quickly and to read and react to them quickly and then be able to modify how we're talking to her or what we're showing her in near real time is really important for us because we don't have a business that's planned out by season and by month. I mean, there are components of it that are that way, but we, I think, really are differentiated because we can be more real time. And so the ability to execute a test and put it on any page that I want to, without having to, create a work request with IT, is a nice bit of flexibility for us.
So, question, and just kind of a side one here is, obviously you guys are a real-time organization. I think, after the Super Bowl, we saw with Oreo, with anyone can dunk this, or with, Duracell coming out, the same thing. It's like if they were using Dell, so the lights would have stayed on. How important do you think it's going to be for organizations to start thinking more real-time?
I mean, I know for our business, we feel it's really, really important. I think that we have an advantage of not having to support a bricks and mortar network where we have to get merchandise from concept to store placement to be able to start talking to the customer about it. We've had a lot of great examples with the royal wedding and other real world events where we can see what the ring looks like. That's the engagement ring for Kate Middleton. We can have one of our Hollywood designers design a prototype, and we can be on air within days selling that to a customer. And I think our customer expects that from us, that we don't have that lead time that's kind of built into traditional retail.
Right, and if they start expecting it from companies like you, they'll start expecting it from others. Just a matter of when.
Right. Like, why can't I make the decision to buy it now, even if you can't get it to me for a few months?
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, hope that was helpful.